You're listening to New England Real Estate Journal Radio with Rick Kaplan, New England's source for commercial real estate news. This is New England Real Estate Journal Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
Welcome to the New England Real Estate Journal Radio Show. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and today guess what? We have another great show.
Another great show for you.
I have to say that every week.
Every week.
And the show today is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. Again, that's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com. And we have two great guests on the show. We have Howard Goldman from Goldman & Pease LLC law firm.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we also have coming in on the second half of the show is Susan Pericini. She's our favorite real estate broker. And she'll be talking, well, both of them will be talking about condos.
Right, today's show is Let's Talk Condo.
It's all condo, all about condos today.
Fantastic.
So, Eric, did you do anything last week? I don't think you did anything last week.
No, I scheduled, this week is my week of, this is my big week of work for May. I tend to work 1 week out of the 4, and I jam all my meetings in 1 week.
But, you know, we've been busy because we're planning our June...
Big event in June, yeah.
11th event in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is kind of becoming a great event.
It's great for the Journal and us. Obviously not our office mates because now we're in the office a lot more. But, the event's taken off. We just got 2 more sponsors that want to take part.
We just got a big sponsor for the event.
The city of
Rochester, New Hampshire is now our platinum sponsor.
Right. Wow.
And we'll be putting them on...
all the marketing materials. They'll come on the air.
They'll be on the air. Yeah. We'll be doing our show live from that event as well.
Well, we'll be recording live.
We'll be recording live.
We'll be recording live and then playing it later as it sounds live. But I'll be also on YouTube and stuff, so check out our YouTube channel, and you can see all of our... you can see today's interview with Howard and Susan. You can also see past shows, too.
Yeah, and... people should go to our YouTube channel. I mean, some of our
Why
shows,
should they, Rick? Tell
because
them.
Our shows are getting unbelievable views. I mean, it's really the term blowing up.
It is. Well, as good as we sound, we even look better.
That's
so
right.
why not watch it on
YouTube?
YouTube?
2 handsome guys.
Yeah, right.
You really are handsome, both of you.
We appreciate it, Howard. Well, I really he's my favorite guest so far. Last week's show was really funny. We wore the same color shirts. We called each other. This week we called and wanted to make sure we were different.
Yeah.
For anybody who watches our YouTube channel weekly, you'd see.
We're probably considered 2 of the best dressed people in commercial real estate.
Yeah, we definitely hold that. If you meant by surfers, if we were compared to surfers, we would definitely be the best people in CRA.
We have the leisure look.
We do.
I would say.
Yeah. Definitely the leisure look.
The look of confidence, guys. The look of confidence.
That's right. That's what it is.
Who needs a tie?
Yeah, we both are pretty confident.
Probably overtly. Unjustified.
Misguided.
We're legends in our own mind.
We are. That's how. You have to be to start a commercial real estate radio show.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And then put it on YouTube so people can watch us do radio. We do have to have...
I'd say we're probably the most entertaining commercial real estate radio guys out there.
Definitely, because I also think we probably watch our show at least 50 times a week each. That's probably 100 views. Is you and me watch each other 50 times a week.
I have the podcast playing through my car. It's on a loop.
I put it on the loudspeaker in the office.
I've had people jump out of the car when I'm doing 50 miles an hour.
They're like, whoa, is that Rick Kaplan? Although you did, I will always say that you did get recognized by your voice, which we were shocked. We were at a networking event at Sherman-Williams Paints, and they come in, and Rick turns around, and he's talking, and they're like, Rick Kaplan, the radio show?
The famous Rick Kaplan,
yeah,
wow.
Famous Rick
and
Kaplan.
Forever, Rick's, that was a whole week in the office. Rick was just running around, just jumping
then
like
I found
Toyota.
Out they were talking about someone else.
Yeah, they were. They were talking about a different Rick Kaplan from New York.
But we're going to come back in a few minutes with our interview with Howard.
And we're going to talk condo law, right?
And condo law. And then after that...
My favorite
Susan
part of
will be
condos.
on, and
we'll talk about selling them.
Yeah, and we'll talk about selling and buying them.
And don't forget about managing condos. Boy, there's a lot of in between the buying and the selling.
Yes.
See? There's a lot we know. And we
Well, I was
always
going to say, there's a lot our guests know. We're about to find out.
yeah, well, we always have a lot of fun when we talk about condos.
We do.
You know,
We always
as
do.
much fun as you can have.
I know,
talking
right?
about
A
condos.
lot of war stories, I'm sure.
And today's show is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. Again, that's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com, and we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
The next level in commercial real estate. This is New England Real Estate Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and we have in the studio with us Howard Goldman, an attorney from Goldman and Pease. It's Pease, right?
Yes, that's my partner, Cameron Pease, yes.
Okay. And we're going to talk about condo law and some of the issues that arise from having a condo. And that's you're on.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, guys, it's great to be here. I know we met at an event, and I hear the good things that you do on this radio. And I'm delighted to be here to talk a little bit about the condominium, what it's like to own condominiums, and some of the details that come through, and some of the difficulties. So our firm specializes in real estate work and condominium work in particular, and we're located right here in Needham, Massachusetts. And we have 6 lawyers in our firm, and we've been practicing condo law for about 30-plus years.
Wow. And so when you first get into condo law, when you say own condo, do you mean the independent owner or the actual association that oversees all the condos?
Well, really all of the above. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. I got involved with the condominium personally back in the 1990s when it was a great opportunity for someone who was just getting started to buy. And there's such a swell of the perception of appreciation in real estate, and I learned quickly that condominium ownership was difficult, costly. I was renting the property, I had collecting of rent issues, and then the market crashed. So it's not all that it's supposed to be. But you know, condos are a great alternative living for people that want to live with others in a community and share some of the expenses. And that's really the model that drives interest in condos.
Interesting condos. Is there another type of condo?
Well, you know,
some that aren't so interesting.
Well, you know, what's that we're coming out of the foreclosure craze, but there are a number of condo associations in some of the outlying areas, and not immediately in Boston. The further away, it seemed like some of the markets were quite depressed, and condominiums were affected negatively by foreclosures. And so what happens in foreclosures, a unit owner loses the property, and he stops paying the bank, but he also stops paying the condominium. Mm-hmm. And so necessities like insurance and taxes and utilities don't get paid. And so the other remaining unit owners have to pick up that slack, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
So that brings up an interesting point, because a condominium that's foreclosed, now the bank takes that over. So when the bank takes it over, they have to stand by the same deals that
the rules and regulations. Yeah. So what happens, though, the banks often today are national conglomerates, and there is no local bank that's often participating. So it's a bank and an agency, a servicing agent far away, and they don't really focus much about the maintenance of these units. So they may obtain the legal ownership through a foreclosure sale, and they often let it sit in disrepair. And sometimes squatters come in somehow, some way, and take advantage of it. Or if the bank doesn't maintain it, doesn't turn the electricity on, in the wintertime, the pipes freeze, for example. Right. And then there's non-payment of condo fees. So having a foreclosed property is not a good neighbor.
So the condo doesn't have the bank doesn't have to pay the
condo fee.
The condo fee.
You know, so they do. The bank is subject to the rules and regulations, and the first rule is to pay your condo fees on time. But again, because the banks are so distant from the transaction, it takes them months to focus on that there is a condo obligation, and they need to make it current. You know, banks take the perspective that they can sell the property in 6 months to a year, and then they'll make an adjustment then. But from the board's perspective, they need those funds to operate the association.
Right. So if you wanted to, like, say you took a piece of land and you created like a condo unit or condos, multiple condo units, how does the association form to put together all these legal structures like condo fees? How do you come up with condo fees and things like that?
Sure. And so what happens is, in order to form a condominium in Massachusetts, you really need a master deed, a declaration of trust, and the rules and regulations. And there's an underlying statute, Chapter 183A, that's the enabling statute in Massachusetts. So the developer puts those 3 documents on record, and the association's formed. And then what happens is, while the developer still controls and owns the units, he or she develops his own budget. But there's a lot of issues with the negatives when the developer's in place, especially where the condos aren't selling. It's a slow market, and not so much now because it seems like we've turned and the sales have really picked up. But for years, these developments, large and small, were being built, and a lot of unsold units. And the association, the unit owners, the independent people, feel often that the developer has taken advantage. They may defer maintenance if some of these units are defective in construction. Defer maintenance to as little as possible. Let the units be sold, and then have the unit owners and the association deal with all the defects, the construction defects, and the common areas. So that's a big issue that we deal with. One of them is the transition from the developer to independent unit owners. And so if there's construction defects, you have to deal with statute of limitations, statute of repose. So there's a time frame where the unit owners, once they do get control of their own association, to take steps to make sure the books and records are transferred, to make sure that the developer's paid his condo fees on time, and then to deal with any defects.
Yeah, so if you have a developer, he's just finished this project, now he's selling the units. Who is the association at that point? You might have only sold 2 units.
Sure. So
they might not want to even be on an association.
So that's a great question. So in the short term, the developer remains as the primary, if not the only, trustee. And in fact, we have a situation right now where the language says that no independent unit owners can become trustees until 100% of all units are sold. And so that's a situation where the developer stays in control until the very end, and he excludes the independent unit owners from participating. And you need a fresh pair of eyes and independent eyes to look at the books and records, to look at the maintenance records, and to see whether there's any defects that need to be addressed.
Do you represent the association or independent owners?
Yeah, that's a great question. We represent the really couple different parties here. There's the unit owners, individuals that have complaints. There's the associations whose interest is different than the unit owner, and then there's the developer. Okay. And then there's sometimes the banks that participate in some way. So in any one transaction, we might take a different role. But we primarily represent associations. But there's a lot of times, as I said, transition from the individual unit owners to take control from the developer. But we like best representing associations. They're in control of maintaining the common areas. But there's certainly a lot of unit owner claims as well.
Oh, me! I was going to ask. So I know that when you own a condo, you have all these shared amenities. Especially like outdoors landscaping, things like that.
Exactly.
Once it goes inside the condo, though, doesn't that change representation? So it would be all on the independent owner, right? Have you ever had a case where it's against the association as an independent owner?
Yes. So a likely claim a unit owner may have against the association is a leak. For example, if you're on Unit 1 and there's somebody above you and his toilet's leaking and it's affecting your ceiling, you want that to be addressed. And there's a question, is it the unit owner above causing it, or is it a common area pipe that's defective in its installation? And so that's a common problem. Often there's insurance. There's often never enough insurance, and there's a dispute and a fight. Whose insurance would it be? The fellow who's creating the problem, the leaky toilet, or the unit owner whose property is being negatively affected?
When you have stuff like that, when you have units on top of each other, and then there's common pipes between the top and bottom, obviously most bathrooms line up on the same sides of the houses. How do you figure out who's responsible?
Well, yeah, that's often a difficult question. So you're right. There's a common pipe that connects the water and sewage. It also connects the utilities. And so if there's a break in the common pipe that services many units, then that's common area, and that's the trustee's responsibility. They must fix it. And if there's damage from the fallout, then they have to fix and pay for the damage. Now, if it's the unit owner above whose toilet is overflowing because of something he did or didn't do, then it's the unit owner's responsibility. And there's a murkiness to the line, the fine line. And often, as a representative, a lawyer for a unit owner who's complaining, we would pursue claims against the offending unit owner as well as the condo association.
Wow.
So if there was a overflow on the second floor and it came into the other apartment, you wouldn't go after the insurance company?
Well, so that each unit owner has a policy called an HO6, which is an addendum to the master policy. And an HO6 covers just unit owner claims. And then there's often a deductible, usually $500. So the condos often have in their documents, the declaration of trust, a requirement that the unit owner who has a problem, leaky ceiling, first has to use that unit owner's HO6. And then there's the shortfall of the deductible, which would come from the association often.
Well, we're going to have to go to a break. When we come back, we want to talk about some of the right things you do with condos and some of the wrong things that are done with condos. So
excellent. Look forward to that return.
Yeah, right.
That's where we'll have a little more fun.
Why, we just didn't? Thanks, Rick.
We did. That was
were we just not on air?
Well, I hope you're going to talk about medicinal marijuana, guys. That's something really affecting us as well here.
Right, and smoke. We'll talk about all the different things.
Okay, we'll do that. And the interview is brought to you by the NEBFM 2014. Do you sell to facility managers, building owners, or property managers? See thousands of these decision makers at the Northeast Buildings and Facilities Management Show, June 18th and 19th at the Boston Convention Center. Go to proexpos.com. That's proexpos.com. And we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
Rick Kaplan and Eric Wilson, right here on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com. New England Real Estate Journal Radio.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. And this part of the interview is brought to you by NEBFM 2014. Do you sell to facilities managers, building owners, or property managers? See thousands of these decision makers at the Northeast Buildings and Facilities Management Show, June 18th and 19th at the Boston Convention Center. Go to proexpos.com. That's proexpos.com. And we're talking with Howard Goldman of Goldman & Pease attorneys, and they handle condominium law. And now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, Howard, about
the tough questions. All right.
The right things and the wrong things you do in condominiums and why you would need an attorney at some point. So what are some of the right things?
Sure. What are some of the traps? So, well, listen, let's talk about sort of larger condos, and larger may be 50 or more condo units. And in Massachusetts, there are a number of larger associations. And so the larger associations have all kind of amenities. They may have pools, they may have common areas, tennis courts. And so those have to be maintained, and the rules and regulations have to be written and enforced. And so, there are some idiosyncrasies that people have. And so one of the benefits of living in condos, shared resources, but a negative is you have to live with your neighbors. Mm-hmm. And these are tight quarters, and if it's a condominium, say in Boston, where there are high rises, you'd be amazed at the noise that you would get if you're the person above you, for example, has a young baby, and they get up in the middle of the night and they roll the roller across the floor. To the person below, that could be loud and upsetting. And does that constitute a nuisance or a rules violation? That's just one example. But something else that comes up is right now is about medicinal marijuana. and it applies to condominiums as it does any other type of investment in Massachusetts. And as you know, the law will be permitting people with a medical need for marijuana to be able to smoke it.
99% of the people in this world have that need.
Well, we all have some anxiety,
Right.
and that's becoming a growing business. But how it intersects with condominiums is that associations that don't even like smoking or secondhand smoking will now have to allow a person who's got a medical card that's legitimate, to ingest marijuana in the unit. And there'll be some concerns. If you're the neighbor next door who smells it and has a young child, you'll be very upset. And so condos are in the process of putting rules and regs together to kind of regulate legal medicinal use of marijuana and to safeguard the secondhand smoke, for example. So one thing that association may do is to impose that a legal user of medicinal marijuana in the unit has to have a dehumidifier, something to process the smoke. The unit owner may need to seal some vents that would allow the air to circulate. And then, of course, you can vaporize marijuana and smoke it or ingest it that way. And so there's some.
They can cook brownies. So.
Brownies is a safeguard.
It is. There's a lot of edibles now.
And it's probably tasty as well.
Yeah.
In Colorado, that's become quite a growth industry.
It has. I know they're trying to figure out how to regulate that as well, because that was a major thing on the THC balances. But back to what you were saying about the secondhand smoke and them, blocking vents because they're shared. When you buy a condo, do you have to sign like you said, rules and regulations, so that if you break any of these rules, they can vote you out?
So that's a great question. How does a unit owner
force you to sell?
Well, not so much force you to sell, but they can fine you. So when you buy a condominium, you take a unit deed. That's the transfer instrument, and it says that you take subject to all the terms and conditions of the condominium documents, the master deed, the declaration, the rules. And so these rules you change over time. But most condos want to encourage a resolution, and so often there is a request if you're doing something in violation of a rule. It could be dogs, having too many dogs, having a dog that's too loud, too large, or making a mess. That you'd be subject to daily fines, but boards should allow the dog owner to come to the board meeting and to discuss it and to explain themselves and to hear the other side. But that's an example of how if you violate a rule, there will be subject to fines. If the fines get large enough, the association can attempt to foreclose on the unit, and that's an extreme. But I have situations right now where a unit in Arlington in a condo, 100-unit condo, was modified to add another bedroom, and without the authorities of the trustees, and that's a violation. And so we've written a series of letters, and the association has written a series of fine letters, and the unit owner has completely ignored it. And so now the association has to go to court to enforce it and to enforce and to collect the fines, and if necessary, to foreclose. That's an extreme.
Right.
And so the balance, I think, really is that the trustees can't be autocratic. They need to be democratic. They're elected officials, and there are lots of complaints from unit owners that the trustees are too aggressive.
Right.
And so there's a fine balance between enforcing the rules and also trying to be responsive and try to resolve problems. And so people have a difficult time living in close quarters, and mediation is a great way to try to resolve these disputes.
Right.
Now,
Well, I always thought of like
trustees-
the iPhone. I agree. In terms of policy. I mean, does everyone read each of those rules and regulations?
Yeah,
Like,
but I
that's what
have a
was gonna
question.
say,
So can the trustees change the rules?
Yeah, so the trustees can vote by a majority, and there's often, say, 3 to 5 trustees at a board meeting to change the rules and regs. However, the most effective way to get a change that's enforceable, like whether you can smoke in a unit, that's a big deal, you would need the unit owners to vote and to amend the condominium documents, and that requires a supermajority, which is roughly 75%. And so to get 75% of unit owners to do anything is a big deal.
Yeah, right.
And so sometimes very difficult to get that large vote. And so the trustees will instead affect or amend the rules and regulations and do that just at the board level. And there's some challenge to that. They're not quite as enforceable as a change in the condominium documents.
Although I would think if the majority of the owners of the condominiums are smoking marijuana, most of them would be amenable to almost anything.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Sure.
at the right moment in time, that would be true, to circulate those proxies.
So I was going to say, when we go to back with all that stuff and reading these rules and regulations, when you buy the condo, you own the inside.
Yes.
But it still has to. You can't do any renovations inside the property unless it's conformed to the rest of the properties.
Well,
that
the unit owner has a lot more discretion inside, and so, for example, any things you want to put on the walls, wall coverings, wall floors, you're pretty much on your own. If you start moving walls, and certainly weight-bearing walls, then that requires trustee approval, and the trustees are very adamant about restricting changes to the exterior of the building. They want the association to look uniform, the same. And so everyone's balcony looks the same, and you can't alter the exterior. And there's been some issues over whether the American flag or any other kind of flag could be flown, and that intersects with someone's First Amendment right to freedom of expression. And so and so you have to work through those issues. And you can't do things and make changes that offend the neighbors.
So the other thing, that's one issue, that the pets, those
parrots.
Yeah, pets that are barking constantly.
Barking dogs, but parrots.
Well, here's one that
really
came
loud.
up that this was a nice condominium in Norwood. There are 35 units, and these were townhouses, so some separation. And it was a divorced father who had his son over periodically. And when the son came, he often liked to play basketball on the weekends. And the basketball is right next to another unit owner who was an older woman. And she didn't like the sound of a kid bouncing a basketball. And so the neighbor, the woman, felt that was a rules violation, a nuisance, and sued the divorced father with the young kid. So a very aggressive
Somebody
litigation.
needed medical marijuana.
Yeah,
that was the lady. Wow.
But that's an example of how
like chill out, lady.
One of the big issues that people don't consider when they buy a condo is that they're in close quarters with others.
Right.
And people do different things at different times of the day, and you have to be mindful and respectful of others.
Right.
And communications, and then what's the role of the board? So that was unit owner against unit owner, but the woman who was offended by the basketball felt that there was a rules violation. So she actually brought a lawsuit against the condo for failing to enforce its rules about nuisances and loud noises.
Wow.
Or maybe she shouldn't have bought a condo next to a basketball court.
Well, was it in the basketball court? Was right next to her, or was it like he was just out in the
No.
driveway?
So what the dad put up, a portable basketball in the
okay.
driveway, and I can't remember whether it was a shared driveway, but it was right next to the
Oh,
other
it was a
person's.
portable.
Yeah, it's
but
still all right.
but bouncing a basketball. But we've had situations mentioned with babies late at night making noise to people below.
Yeah.
And we've had people that
they don't
drop.
like that they get rid of the baby.
And if you don't like your neighbor, this one guy was a weightlift, used to drop the weights on the floor to upset the neighbor in the middle of the night. And then how do you prove that?
Right.
But we've had a situation where a heating element, HVAC element, was installed in the roof, and it operated a little bit loudly, but when it went on and off, it created a big clicking sound that affected our client, his head was only a few feet away from this large HVAC unit. And so, again, it affects is it a rules violation? Are people acting in an unreasonable fashion? And then how do you prove that? So we had to bring in a sound expert in the middle of the night to register the sounds that the on-off was affecting.
Well, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a really cool, situation you put yourself in. You have to bring in a CSI guy to measure the sound.
I never even heard of a sound expert.
Oh no, that's it's a developing area. But some of the negatives we just kicked around. But one of the areas, because the market has improved, are conversion of condominiums, condo conversions, where somebody may own a 3-unit in a nice part of town, Brighton or Back Bay, and collecting income, but wants to convert it to condominiums and to sell those units off. And that's becoming more popular again. That was very popular in the late 80s. And there are some local rules and requirements. And the biggest one is that if there are tenants in place, a developer needs to give the tenants rights. And if they're elderly or disabled, they have bigger rights, which is to stay in the unit longer and to receive some relocation assistance. And then, of course, you need to look at the local zoning, whether multiple units and living would be allowed. But for those that are entrepreneurial and are good at fixer-uppers, a condo conversion of 3 to 5 units is a great opportunity to make a good profit.
One of the things that I'm going through my head right now, usually there's not a lot of things going through my head.
It's usually birds.
If you have a person that owns a condominium and they just pigs, they have garbage everywhere and they have a lot of money. So you keep fining them. They keep paying the fines. At that point, is there anything you could do if they don't really care? You know, they just keep throwing the trash out.
Like smells coming out of the house.
So trash is bad, but people can do some offensive things, and so when it gets really bad, you can go to court to seek an injunction. An injunction is a pretty difficult standard, but you have to show a likelihood of success, and you have to show irreparable harm if the order is not issued. So we had a situation where it was an ex-site manager who was angry and fired, and he came back on the site and he irritated some of the unit owners, physically aggressive, pointing his car at them, and he had no reason to be on the site, was vindictive, and so that was an example of how we did go to court to get a stay-away order. And if he came back on the site, we were able to give the order to the police and get that person arrested. That's an extreme. But sure, in the situation, the garbage are loud, difficult to get an injunction, the fines. Most people at some point get affected by the fines. It's also legal fees. So if a rules enforcement action does involve a cost of collection legal fees, so fines plus legal fees, you can be dealing in the thousands. Most people at some point get the message. But you're right, there are some wealthy people that have a different reading, feel that they're special in some way, and good lawyering can extend and make this process expensive.
Yeah, because now with the hoarders, people. Well, not that it's new, but But you get a hoarder that's living in a condominium, and they fill up the place, and it's all on the deck, and it's outside. It's all over the place. A lot of them have a lot of money. Because they also don't spend any money.
I would assume, yes.
Some people that don't have the money but are offensive, they can file bankruptcy.
Right.
And so often a condo as a home is exempt from, you can exempt your interest. And so they can file bankruptcy, try to exclude these fines, and certainly delay the process. So that's part of the difficulty of managing associations is to get people to comply.
What about people that sublet, like people who buy condos and then rent out? What if other condo owners have issues with the people that are renting out?
That's a great question, because most of the time unit owners care. If they live there, they'll care. They see their neighbors. But if they rent it out, and if you rent it out to students who enjoy a drink from time to time, a party perhaps, the tenants don't care, and the unit owners who's renting, the renter doesn't realize what's going on. And so the associations, and we've been successful in pursuing regulations enforcement against very loud, noisy, disrespecting tenants.
So say you own a condo, you want to rent it out, sublet it, and then do you have to have an agreement with that renter so that he knows, or share the agreement that you have so that you know what the board's rules and regulations are, so the renter has that understanding so he's not out there?
Yeah, so the associations really look closely at rental arrangements, and they often restrict the rental arrangement to at least 6 months. And that's to have a minimum that you're not dealing with turnover tenants. We had a unit owner in Beacon Hill, very nice part of town, who would rent and advertise to people coming for a couple days. People come from Europe and all over the world and love to be in Beacon Hill. And that was a clear rules violation. You're not supposed to lease to short-term tenants. And we were able to get the local officials to look at that. That was a violation of the local zoning code because they were operating a business in that unit.
Like a hotel almost.
And so to get the government involved and with enforcement powers, that was helpful. But you have to prove that. In this instance, they had videos they were advertising online, and so it was relatively easy to show that illegal rental was taking place.
Right. That's a statement we haven't heard in a long time. Getting the government involved was helpful. But I like it.
It's very easy to hide something like that because you just say, I have friends visiting.
Right. Yes, but that's...
So these people had a lot of friends, and that was what was said for a long time.
I'm sure.
And then what happened was somebody, the tenant or the person who was renting was from overseas and didn't have a key to get in and spoke a foreign language and was communicating with the unit owner, and that's how they realized that this was really a business being run.
What about like condos that are side by side and say like you rented it out and there's an accident at a party and someone put a hole through the wall? Is it my responsible? Obviously, I'm responsible because I own it and I put the damage in, but it's a shared wall.
Yeah, so typically shared walls would be common area, but you look to see who the wrongdoer is.
Right.
And in that instance, you mentioned it was the party that did it. And so, that then you have to get the offending unit owner to pay.
Right. What if you're on the other side of the
and it's difficult. It's difficult. So people grind each other as part of this process, and they get lawyers, and they could even litigate and agitate. And so I talked earlier about mediation, which is a voluntary process to sit in a room with a trained mediator to try to resolve a dispute. And since people ultimately will continue to live together, that's really valuable because in most cases nobody is 100% right. They may think they're 100% right, and
Howard,
there
I'm
needs
going
to
to
be
disagree right there. I don't think I've ever been less than 100% right.
except for you guys, of course, yeah.
Right.
Well,
we could talk all day about condos. We really
there's all
appreciate
kinds
that.
of things that we could ask about condominiums. There's so much.
Yeah, you gave us a bunch of great stories
but,
too.
if you have questions for Howard, you could.
How could you reach you?
Well, thank you. I'd invite those questions at goldmanandpeas.com. It's www.goldmanpeas.com, and our phone number is 781-292-1080, and we're in Needham, Massachusetts.
Perfect.
Or you could tweet us if you have a question at NEREJ Radio.
Yeah. Email us.
Or you can email us at radio@nerej.com. And we appreciate you coming on, Howard, and you're welcome to stay on with Susan Parasini's coming in, and she's going to talk about buying and selling condominiums. You might have some pointers for her, what she should tell her clients to look for.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here with both of you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And that interview was brought to you by New England Restaurant Brokers, recognized leader in the sale of food and liquor businesses for over 30 years. New England Restaurant Brokers' team of restaurant specialists have sold hundreds of food and liquor businesses. If you're looking to buy, sell, or develop a food or liquor business, call New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or go to nerestaurantbrokers.com. Again, that's New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or email nerb@comcast.net. That's nerb@comcast.net, and we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
Rick Kaplan is right here on the Money Matters Radio Network. New England's commercial real estate scene is covered right here on the Money Matters Radio Network with Rick Kaplan.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and the show today, or the interview on the second half, is brought to you by New England Restaurant Brokers, recognized leader in the sale of food and liquor businesses for over 30 years. New England Restaurant Brokers' team of restaurant specialists have sold hundreds of food and liquor businesses. If you're looking to buy, sell, or develop a food or liquor business, call New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or go to nerestaurantbrokers.com. Again, that's New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or email nerb@comcast.net. That's nerb@comcast.net. And we're here in the studio with the one and only Susan Parasini.
Hello.
And it's RE/MAX Leading Edge. Is who you're representing.
Wow.
Yes.
Nowadays.
He didn't have to read that. That's good.
Yeah,
I know. He didn't say the word tenants once yet.
I know.
That's a thing of the past.
That's right.
Now what is it? Condominium. You're selling. You're brokering.
Yes.
Condominiums.
That's right.
In the Boston area mainly.
That's right. Boston, Brookline, and Newton area.
So if you have $1 billion and you want to buy a condominium, you call Susan.
How is the condo market going now that we're kind of out of this? Well, we're out of the recession, but
the condo market is very, very strong right now. I mean, the two most important things always price and location. But if it's priced right and it is in a good location, they're selling pretty much the first day on the market with multiple offers, bidding wars, etc.
Do you work for? Are you also a buyer as well as So I say I want to get a condo, but can I call you and you'll go find me the condo, or do you have exclusive leasing rights to certain properties?
Well, I actually work with a team of 3. Our team is called PL Boston, which stands for Parasini Larson. My partner's name is Lauren Larson, and we have a
Shout out Lauren.
Lolo, and then we have a buyer agent named Jenna Spang. So if you need to buy a property. We usually specialize in listings, and we service the listing end. And so we've brought Jenna on, who's our superstar buyer agent, to handle the buyers that want to go out and look for condominiums or homes in Boston and surrounding.
So what is it? on the market right now? Anything really interesting as far as condominiums in Boston?
Yes, I actually have. Well, I don't know if you remember last year I was a guest on your show,
Yes.
and I was talking about my new project, Hammond Pond Place.
How could we ever forget that?
Yeah, how can we ever
forget?
Hammond
That's
Park
when we
Place,
became
right?
fast friends for life. And Hammond Pond Place is a 27-unit building on Hammond Pond Parkway in Brookline in Chestnut Hill. 27 units to sell, and we've sold 25 of them in less than a year. So
Wow.
we have a whole building full of happy residents, 2 left to sell. And currently we'll be, marketing a building directly across the street from that called the Parkway at Chestnut Hill.
Wow.
Both of these developments are within walking distance, stone's throw to the street, which is that shopping, dining destination they just developed in Chestnut Hill. So they've been
and
flying.
now you also have a Wegmans supermarket right around the corner.
That's right. That's right.
I know. They opened today, right?
No, last week.
Was it last week? I just heard a bunch
People
of
have
people
been
talking.
waiting. I mean, a lot of the condominiums that we sold off Blueprint just for the Wegmans.
It must be something special. I've never been to a
I've been
Wegmans.
I
to a
haven't
Weg-
either.
Oh,
Yeah.
I live in the North Shore. So,
Right.
It's
Well, I've been
Stop
to a
and
Wegmans.
Shop, Shaw's.
Wegmans is an unbelievable store.
What's so great about it?
Well, it's like walking into a gigantic food court. They have maybe a seating for
Or we call that heaven.
it's
A giant food court.
100 seat, like a restaurant, and there's these
Grocery
steam
store
tables.
attached to it, right?
Is it kind of like Whole Foods where there's all kinds of like...
Before you get into the supermarket, it's all set up that there's just these steam tables all throughout the whole front of the store.
Okay.
So you can have Japanese, Italian, Chinese.
Just samples of things?
No. It's all hot foods. You can buy it.
Oh,
it's
you have to pay
like
for it.
a.
Yeah.
That's
That's how they get you in.
you. That's right. Okay.
Well, yeah, the
You
free-
got to pay for this stuff? This is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
well,
BJ's has it for free.
I know,
the free
right?
concept, it wasn't working out too good for them.
Yeah,
That's right, that's
I'm
right.
sure they must have
Profit
been.
Yeah, they
and all
wanted
that.
to expand,
Mm-hmm.
But it's an incredible supermarket.
Apparently, because it is a very... it's probably 99% of my... tours ask me when is the Wegmans opening. So
Yeah.
Really?
I'll only buy a condominium in this area if there's a Wegmans supermarket.
right. But then we listed a condominium at 910 Beacon Street a couple of weeks ago. That sold the first day too. And the funny thing about that is we do a lot. People say, well, they're selling so quickly, I could just list it myself, which isn't the
Right.
case. The way that we get that to happen, we do a lot of it's a lot of front loaded work. When they contact us, it's usually a couple months or a month before they put it on the market. And what we do is work with the homeowner to really get the property in tip-top shape. Things come out if it's cluttered. They go into storage. We've had furniture removed, walls painted. We work with a wonderful stager named Christine Joyce. She stages all of our properties. And, it works. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of cleaning out. But once you get it on the market for that open house, that perfect day, that movie set, nobody lives like that.
Right.
Right? Everything's off
Right.
the countertops. Things are clean. Things are put. You can really generate a bidding war. So I had 2 properties that were beautiful properties, both large. One was a condo. One was a single-family home in Brookline that sat on the market for a few months, languished on the market. Nobody wanted them because they couldn't envision how they would live in the space or utilize the space. We had Christine stage. They both sold the first open house we did after the staging.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
fast.
it's really important not only the price and location to price the property right, and but really to get the property in show shape. Everybody
Right.
wants a move-in condition property, whether it's a home or a condo.
Right, but you probably already have a list of people that are looking for properties anyways. So
We do. We have quite a long list that we.
so if someone's going to put a condo on the market, they call you, and you already have the people that you can bring down to show the property.
Yes, we do. We do oftentimes have a list of people that have come to our listings that have already sold. They might have lost out on that home, or it might have not been a consideration for them, so they go on our database to contact them when something else comes available. Yes.
So on a new development, I know like on Hammond Pond, you are the exclusive leasing for all 27 units.
No exclusive sale.
So exclusive sale. I'm sorry I did the same thing he did
I know,
last time.
that's right.
I would
Exclusive,
never say
I
that,
did.
Eric.
You did it the first time. I meant to say exclusive. You have the exclusive listing of all those
Exclusive
properties.
right to sell, yes.
Right. But you also do independent.
Oh, yes.
Condo sales?
Condo sales and home sales. We have a gorgeous home for sale in Wakefield right now, a large colonial at the head of a cul-de-sac.
Oh, you sell houses as well?
Everywhere, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it
Yes.
was just condos.
No.
Nice.
No. Condos is kind of my specialty.
Right.
But if you're coming to purchase a condo, chances are you have a home to sell, and then they fall in love with you, and then they want you to sell their home as well because you do such a nice job.
I know that's
You
how
know,
you
how that
roll.
works?
And if you had a car to sell,
Then I'd call Rick Kaplan because he would,
anything you want to sell.
So, like, I was saying, we were talking to Howard, who was on earlier. He was talking to us about, like, some of the problems that different tenants have with each other inside the condo after it's already been sold.
Yes.
Say I own a condo and I'm part of this association and I want to use you as my broker. Do you have to meet the association to find out the rules and regulations?
We don't have to meet with the condo board. However, every time we go on a market analysis for a condo before we even list it, we gather a bunch of materials. We get, the condo budget, the rules and regulations, the condominium documents, the minutes for the last meeting, et cetera. And that's all part of our package that we present to prospective buyers because they want to know. That's kind of what sets us apart, too, from other people. I mean, a lot of people will just sign that listing up, throw it in the MLS, and then when it comes time, they've found a buyer and the purchase and sales is being negotiated, and then they get close to closing and they find out, oh, geez, the condo board's in litigation. I didn't know this. Now they've lost the buyer, and they've lost all that marketing time. Like I said, we prefer to front load everything and get it all done so that when it goes on the market,
well, that's
it's ready
fine
to sell.
because then when it comes down to you have the hot buyer,
correct,
you can do the deal.
That's right.
My second question is, if all the properties of condos are the exterior is the same, I understand if there's a 3-bedroom to 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, but if they're all 3 bedrooms, how is is it all one price? So like each
well, it depends. If it's a new development and they've been built, the design development phase, the developer chose all the finishes and built them all the same. Everybody had the same granite countertops. Everyone had the same cabinetry. Then you just come up with a price per square foot, and then it just goes by the square footage.
Okay.
However, like for instance, in Longwood Towers, I sold many condominiums in that complex. You might have the similar square footage and the exact same floor plan, but Rick might have used an upgraded finish, in his bathroom or his kitchen, where you went with an Ubatuba granite and an oak cabinet. So there's obviously a much higher value that we would place on Rick's for the finishes, and people pay for the high-end finishes right now. A lot of money.
Okay, so that's how. So really, the interior is what separates the pricing because all the exterior is the same.
Although I would think right now in this market, the way the banks are, and people are looking for a higher end interior.
They are. We work for the RE/MAX Collection, which is a luxury division of RE/MAX. I work for RE/MAX Leading Edge, but it's all collections properties mainly. And right now the luxury market is on fire. So, yes, people are definitely paying for the higher finishes, the higher quality.
Yeah, because if you're going to spend that kind of money on a condominium, you want the higher end. You want it to look
beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, you want to enjoy.
I mean, you don't want if the build is special.
No. So, and plus, you want to put your own personal mark on it if you have the opportunity.
Right.
Personalize it.
Now, are you doing any of the big projects that they have in Boston?
No, Rick, I'm a loser. I have no big projects. Thank you. Could you get me one?
So, are you doing anything good?
I have a guy that
I got a guy. Can you be any more Boston? I got a guy.
There's a lot of these new condominium projects that are going on in the city.
That's right.
And I know some of the developers do their own sales, but can you do any of that type of? So you can go into you have a client that's interested in one of their projects. You can obviously.
Oh yeah, it's called a co-broke. It's a cooperating broker. I would go in, and present the property to the buyer and present the offer to the developer's broker, whoever they've hired to be their exclusive, broker. But yes, that's definitely done.
So you are doing that.
Thank you. Good save. Good save.
So thank you for answering that.
Actually, I've been working almost 7 days a week on Hammond Pond Place. So
really,
and the Parkway at Chestnut Hill, because they've been so busy and the traffic there is very busy. But now that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I am starting now to solicit developers to hire me for the sales and marketing component for their other projects that are upcoming.
Right.
Yeah, because there are a lot of them going on. Right
Yeah.
now.
And what about like the Green Line change and going up to Somerville, and they're doing all that redevelopment on that
Oh, yeah.
corridor? I mean, that's especially the corridor we're talking about with Wegmans in that area. There must be Chestnut
There's a
Hill.
lot of different things popping up over there. You know, mostly the 3 to 6 family conversions, which are always
Now, do you keep your eye on that stuff? Like, that's really where you get your who's turning what over?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, plus, if the casinos go in, that's a game changer in the whole city.
Everyone will be selling their condos because they lost
exactly
all
right.
their money.
I don't think so.
Oh, unless they're all like Ben
Not in the
Affleck.
city. When you have a casino in the city, that's a little different than having it like a Foxwoods out in the boondocks somewhere.
Is it?
Yes, because it's an attraction. It does bring a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but it doesn't bring the kind of people that you would think.
Well,
It brings usually people that work at the casino.
yeah, but
people
you also
who,
get the people that have big money that like to come in.
Actually, you know what?
for hotels, yes, and travel, yes, tourism, yes. But we were talking about condo sales
No,
and people
those
moving
people
in.
come in because
Maybe
they-
workers, like people that work at the
Well, the
casinos and
workers will
stuff.
be coming from the outskirts.
Right.
Even the workers aren't going to be able to afford to pay for even an apartment with what they would make in a casino.
What, man,
in
you
Boston.
run casinos? I don't know.
I feel like he's gunning for the.
Yeah,
he's,
I know.
He's voting yes.
He's definitely yes.
There's nothing wrong with it.
He loves
right.
gambling.
He does.
He took a gamble on this radio show,
I gamble
can
on
do
everything.
and we
You can
won,
do better than that.
and we doubled our entry fee.
That's great.
Right?
That's right.
We've done fantastic. This is your second time guest. I mean,
Yeah,
come
you
on.
know what? We don't have many that come on a second time.
Really?
Right.
You know, we don't invite many of them.
Only our friends,
Yeah.
Susan.
Well, I would
Only
like
our
to
friends.
invite you to
Yes.
do a broadcast show from my new office in Back Bay,
Oh, we'd
Remax
love
Leading
to.
Edge, on the corner of Hereford and Newbury Street.
And
Nice.
we'll do that in a beautiful summer day
Yeah.
during the week.
Yeah.
That would be
Well, We'll
fabulous.
do our show there.
I'll wear my bathing suit. It'd be fantastic. Oh, you said a beautiful summer day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Maybe we should have
That
a
would
great
be
time.
scary.
That'd be fun.
it would be
yeah.
nice.
And we'll bring a videographer.
Corey, who we like to
Corey?
mention each show, but no one can see him because he's definitely got the radio face.
I think Corey's handsome.
I know. That's why we hide him.
Oh,
I
okay.
know, but
He doesn't want to make us look bad.
Oh, okay.
We can't have Brad Pitt out here with me and Rick looking a lot like John Goodman and Michael Rappaport.
Oh, that's funny.
We can't have
more
that.
like Tony Soprano.
Oh, is that it is?
You mean before or after he
No,
died?
now. He means today.
Yeah.
That was too soon. Too
so much fun coming on this
Too
show.
soon, Tony.
Too soon. I
Love
know.
you.
I did. I
is.
love that.
It was such a great show.
We appreciate you coming on, Susan. It's
Yeah.
always a lot of fun, and we
Thank
will come
you.
out and do our show.
This summer, so stay tuned and we'll promote that up.
Yeah.
Tell Lauren and Jenna we say hi,
I
and
will.
we'll look forward to seeing them
And
again.
if you need to buy a condominium,
Yes.
you need to buy one
Or sell one.
or sell one, call Susan Parasini.
That's right.
And why don't you give out your information so they can get a hold of you?
Well, I will give you my cell phone number.
Oh, I thought you wanted people to buy condos, not dates, Susan.
Oh, geez. 781-475-2475. Or you can send an email to info@plboston.com. That's P as in Peter, L as in Larry, Boston.com.
Nice.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Thanks
so much
for having
coming on.
me.
Yeah, definitely.
This interview is brought to you by Command Security Corporation. Command Security Corporation is the nation's most trusted and experienced provider of affordable contract security services. Command Security Corporation, with offices nationwide and operations at numerous major international airports, they provide complete, customized, and cost-effective security solutions for industries, businesses, institutions, and organizations of all sizes. To find out how Command Security Corporation can solve your security needs, contact John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com. That's John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com. Thank you.
And we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
It's New England Real Estate Journal Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and we're coming to a close of another show. We have a couple of events that we have coming up.
We do. We have May 22nd, the IFMA Boston Awards. We have May 23rd, Grow Smart Rhode Island, down at the Provic Civic Center, Rhode Island Convention Center, the Power of Place Summit. That's going to be a fantastic event, so check that out. Also, June 11th, we have our Cocktails and Conversations event series going on in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at the Sheraton Harborside. If you're not going, you should be. If you haven't got an invitation, call me.
Or if you're interested in the sponsorship,
call Rick. They are.
Sold a lot
We're almost out. And we had a great time when we did in Boston.
And June 18th,
we'll do the same thing in New Hampshire.
And 19th, the NEBFM
Definitely.
show in Boston.
NEBFM 14.
Don't forget that.
Yep.
And the show today is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. Again, that's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com.
And let's thank Howard and Susan for coming in the studio and our
Howard
sponsors.
And Susan for being on the show today. And
Thank you
this
for
deal
having
is
me.
done.